I would like to call the regularly scheduled meeting for the Village of Tinley Park Plan Commission to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Moving on to roll call. Jason, please take the roll.
Commissioner Gatto, Commissioner Hamilton, Commissioner Gaskell,
Present.
Commissioner Manny,
Present.
Commissioner Merrick,
Here.
Commissioner Sepsi,
Yes, here.
Chairman Gray, Acting Chair Martinez.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Awesome. So we will move on to communications. Staff, are there any communications?
Yes, Commissioner Gray isn't here, so thank you, Commissioner Martinez, for stepping up to be the acting chair of this meeting. Also want to let you guys know that Commissioner Stocklose officially resigned from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I want to thank him for his service, and we are going to work towards finding someone to fill that seat to make getting quorums a lot easier, so.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 3rd and December 5th of 2024?
Not sure where I moved to make an amendment. Is that after or now?
Right now.
It's now?
Yeah.
Can I have an amendment to the public hearing for Interstate Sports Dome?
Is that December 5th?
That's December 5th.
Okay.
Yeah. So the amendment is that I asked if the second phase might be used to build additional sports fields, and the answer was yes, that was a consideration.
All right.
Any other comments from commissioners?
Motion to accept. Approved.
So you need to make a motion to approve the amended minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to approve the amended minutes for December 5th?
Motion.
Second.
I heard a motion by Commissioner Sepisi and second by Commissioner Gaskell. And then do I need one for the October, since I just did the amendment?
Yeah, just to be safe.
Okay. Can I get a motion for the October 3rd Plan Commission minutes?
Make motion.
I'll second.
I heard a motion by Commissioner Gaskell and a second by Commissioner Sepisi. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion is carried for both of those. All right, moving on to the only item on the agenda tonight. So the item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider recommending that the village board grant the petitioners Lisa and Jason Deidre a zoning variation to allow a deck within the required front yard in the R4 district for the property located at 7542 163rd Place. May I have a motion to open the public, do you want the staff report before I open?
Nope, you have to open the
Okay.
public hearing first.
May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Make motion.
Second.
All right, first by Commissioner Gaskell, second by Commissioner Sepisi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The motion is carried. Before we proceed, I would like to note that I have received the certification of the public hearing notice as being published in the local newspaper as required by state law. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter will be sworn in before they speak, but after staff's presentation. Staff, please proceed with the presentation.
Okay, so this is a variation to allow a deck within a required front yard. The property is located at 7542 163rd Place. It's in the Brementown Estates subdivision. The house was built in the 1970s, and the property and everything in the immediate vicinity is zoned R4, single-family residential. As I mentioned, the variation is to permit a deck within the required front yard. The petitioners replaced the front stoop that was built with the house from the 70s with a partially covered deck with stairs. The new structure encroaches 8 feet into the required front yard. Decks are prohibited in the required front yard. The contractor completed the work without a permit and then applied for a permit after our code enforcement team issued a stop work order on September 16th. And like I said, the permit was applied for about a month later. So critical to this is the distinction in the zoning ordinance between a porch and a deck. A deck is basically a uncovered porch, or say it the other way, a porch is a covered deck. Since this structure is only partially covered, it would be classified as a deck per the zoning ordinance. Porches, however, are allowed to encroach in the required front yard. So if this was a entirely covered structure, it would comply with the zoning ordinance, but because it's not entirely covered, it does not comply with the zoning ordinance. Here's a before and after picture, or before and during. As you can see, the image on the left shows the original front stoop, and the image on the right shows the deck with the covered portion in front of the stairs. And that's it for now. I assume there'll be questions, but I have the standards on screen.
Thank you. I assume the petitioner is present. Would you like to approach the podium?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah. And if you could sign in, please.
Okay,
Yeah. And she'll swear you in.
okay,
And then if you don't mind also stating your name, just for the video.
sure. Lisa Derrida.
You have to swear. Sorry.
All right, if you can raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence that you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to staff's presentation?
Yes, we were asked to provide kind of a summary of kind of what happened that kind of led us to this situation and some response to our, the variance questions. So I have some notes prepared for that, as well as some of the contracts and other things that we had from our contractor that may help kind of support some of the facts. So I guess first, we would just like to thank you for allowing us to go through this process. My husband is here with me tonight. We know this is kind of a unique situation, and we're grateful that processes like this exist that can help us in these kind of tough times. So as they kind of mentioned already, we had hired a contractor to do the work on our home. Per our contract, they were to obtain the permits for the work, provide the drawings and everything to you. As homeowners, that seemed to all make sense to us as they were doing that work. At one point, they even delayed the start of the project, telling us, hey, we're still waiting on things from the village before we can get moving. So we were under the impression that everything was in order for this structure to be built and that it was in the requirements that you guys have set forth. I do have the contract that indicates that. I don't know if that's helpful for you guys to view, but I can provide that copy if that's something that you'd want to see. Okay. As you guys already mentioned, the project was almost 100% complete by the time the stop order was issued by the village, and that we were notified to know that there was an issue with the permit. So I think me and my husband both have been attempted to be very cooperative throughout this whole process and kind of sharing what had transpired and trying to come up with a resolution that seems equitable for us to be able to move forward with this porch as we kind of see it. I know we've talked about these porch deck definitions at the time when we submitted our variance application. It was really under the context of it being a porch. I think those were some of the things that we discussed in some other meetings. So everything we referenced was related to being a porch because that was kind of what we were told at the time. So now this kind of being a deck is something new for us too that we didn't really respond to. So I just kind of wanted to make note of that. But really, I think this kind of boils down to, we had hired a contractor who unfortunately was unethical in those practices, and we got kind of caught up in a unfortunate circumstance where we got kind of taken advantage of throughout this work. And we had no ill will in this process. We knew permits were required. We assumed that these things were moving forward as they were. So we're just kind of hoping that we can keep the structure as it is designed without having to incur any significant modifications that honestly could really just devastate our finances. This has been a nightmare for us the last few months as we've been trying to navigate this. And there's a lot of pillars in the ground from the structure. It's attached to our home and our foundation, and we really worry about the kind of ripple effect of what could happen by trying to undo some of this to kind of meet the requirements of either removing it or trying to cover it. You'll also see that we have a big bay window, so covering it and just doing that, if in a perfect world we'd be able to do that, but the house doesn't really lend itself to that in an easy fashion. So just, I guess, a couple of other things that I just wanted to mention to summarize some of the things that we shared in the document. There is easy access to the front of the house, actually probably easier access now with the walk-up than what we had before, dodging around cars. So there's no limitations there. The style of the home prevents some challenges in trying to cover it, both because of the slope of the house to try to drop the porch down and because of the window. In terms of the kind of character, we do see other houses in the neighborhood that are partially covered that would probably fall under the same, is it a porch, is it a deck distinction. So I don't know that we feel like this is super unique to the neighborhood or changes the character in any way, especially because of the houses being older. There's a lot of houses and the porches that don't have covers or have awnings and aren't fully kind of covered roof structures. So again, if it's helpful, we have some pictures related to that, if that's something that you'd like to see. I think essentially we are not trying to make any financial gains through this process. We were really just trying to improve our home, be good members of the community where we can sit out front and talk with our neighbors and the people going by. So really there is no financial gain for us. If anything, we've just been getting hit with financial loss after loss as we've been trying to navigate this situation. We have retained legal counsel to try to work with this contractor to try to help remedy some of this in some way. And there's really no risk to the public in any way. Really, like, the only one that can have any harm in this is us, right? By really not being able to potentially even stay in our home, depending on what these costs and domino effect can trickle to be. In terms of community support, actually the porch has been wonderful for us. We have met countless neighbors, and we've been here for almost 15 years, just being out in front, people rolling down the window and waving and telling us it looks nice. So that is actually everything we hoped for by building this structure, and it's something we'd really like to maintain, but we feel that it's not preventing any harm to them, and that they've actually been really pleased with the value that it's been bringing to the neighborhood. We do also have a letter of support from our neighbor directly across the street who was not able to be here with us tonight. Again, I can share that with you. In closing, we just kind of want to add that we appreciate the time you've given us to kind of talk about the situation we are in, kind of acknowledge that we're not some big company and millionaires that can just kind of flex to undo work that's already been done and then, kind of be able to move forward and make any crazy modifications to it kind of moving forward. So we're hoping that through this process we can find a need to kind of meet your compliance requirements, but also kind of respect us as citizens in the community that we're really just trying to improve our home. So if there's any questions for us, we'd be happy to take those, or if you want these documents, we can pass them forward. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I'm gonna see if any of the other commissioners have any initial comments or questions. So you can take a seat if
Okay.
you'd like.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gaskell, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm really sorry this happened. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, we're here in a position that we have to look at these things on an individual basis. We can't go by what other people might want to do or what people have done in the past. And right now, that particular structure isn't allowed. So I don't know what you can do other than take it apart and,
I can jump in real quick just to give you just kind of a basis. So when Michael alluded to what's a porch and what's a deck, the deck is an uncovered structure, the porch is a covered structure. So we actually talked with them about, and what she was saying, financially, it's just not feasible to bring the roof line down to cover it, then it would become a porch and it would become legal, right? The section under the canopy is legal. We allow canopies, steps, stairs, and stoops that jut into the front yard, a certain percentage, 35% of the setback. This juts, the stoop and stairs and all that are 32%. So that all meets. It's the sides,
Correct.
the deck, that is the only thing that's qualified as a deck. So in terms of solution, that would be, if they don't get a variation, you can either take it all down and put it back how it was. They can keep the canopy, the stairs, and the thing going in, they just have to get rid of the sides. If they found a way to cover the sides, then it would become an enclosed porch.
Right.
The biggest problem is, and she alluded to it, there's windows in the way to cover because it's a split level. So just to give you kind of an idea of kind of the things we were just saying is they either get the variation and they keep it as is, or you can take the sides down and then you can at least keep that main structure. The walkway to the sidewalk is legal. All that's fine. And I'm just talking from zoning purposes here. In terms of building, they have some comments and questions too on how it was built. You know, they can work that out, not a problem. But in terms of zoning, it's just those side deck pieces.
yes, I was coming to all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like he said, that's really your best way to go. You either remove the sides that are uncovered, and then you have a covered porch. Or bring the roof line down. I don't know that would be the answer. As far as appearance goes, I don't know that would be. So, I mean, that's how it is. I mean, you don't have too many choices in this manner, other than what he brought up.
All right, I think we'll move on to Commissioner Sepisi. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, the left side is the biggest trouble, facing from the street. Because I don't see how, unless you go up to the total roof line and come down there with long pillars, that you can cover that side. There's a chance that on the bedroom side, a roof could go there, but it would be flat, it would be limited. I'm not sure if it would meet code. I just don't know. It doesn't look like you could lower that structure at all in order to get a roof on it. So it's like I said, the portico is beautiful. The portico is just tremendous. I think that with a pair of nice railings and stuff would just be just totally awesome. But I just don't see how the wings will be feasible. I just don't see a solution there. My construction experience, of course, is very limited, but somebody with a good design, you know, maybe could pull something off there that would look good and meet code. As far as the contractor goes, you gotta get him. You have to go and get him because he not only dropped the ball here, in my opinion, he threw the ball away on you guys. That's all I got.
Thank you. Commissioner Manny?
Well, my opinion is this looks nice. And this is just one of the ways. You know, I see this type of construction throughout Tennessee. And this is just one way to increase your living space, you know, engaging with the neighborhood. And this is totally, you know, great, you know. I like it.
Thank you. Commissioner Merrick?
So I have two questions. So one is, I'd love, I don't really need to see the contract, but does the contract state that they'll get it does say it in the contract that they'll do that? And then I would love to see the pictures from surrounding houses that lay out what the character. I do agree that, with the other commissioners, that by rule, you know, we can't really overturn these sorts of things, but the village can, right? The village council can. And I think one of the things that we could do is take a look and recommend that they do so, in spite of the fact that it doesn't make zoning, and we probably shouldn't recommend to them that we break the rules. Because that's not what this body does, but the actual meeting, is it next week? The regular,
This one is gonna go to the February 4th.
okay, in February, that sometimes they'll overturn our recommendations based on what our legal requirements are, which is to look at what the zoning is and then apply it as written. But I'd love to see the pictures as well, and then duly note in the minutes that, that, you know, you had it in the contract for these things to happen. Because I mean, another answer would be to have a roof come out underneath those windows, but that would probably really destroy the look of the house, right? That would.
It's too low.
Okay.
We
yeah.
sat down with the building
Yeah,
official
okay.
too.
I mean,
We-
it's hard to tell from
if
here,
Mike
right?
Coleman can't figure it out, it probably
Yeah,
can't be done.
yeah. And even if it could, it would look stupid, right? I mean, there's that part. So I'd love to see the pictures if you have, yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. They can be passed along so that,
Yeah, and we'll just say they're entered into the record as well,
Yeah.
if you're all getting them.
yeah.
Pictures of just three houses casually in our neighborhood, and
Okay.
here's the contract. We know.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. They
Oh,
can
okay.
enter it, if others want to look at it. But I think that's important too, right? Because occasionally we run into people who don't have that issue. They know they're not supposed to do it, and then they do it anyways.
Staff, do you know if, sorry if I'm cutting you off.
No, go ahead, yeah.
Do you know if this is a typical setback along that same block? Like, are there any other structures that are coming into that yard?
Nothing on their block, and I looked at a few blocks nearby and didn't notice any, so I would be interested to see the pictures too.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the pictures may have front things, but they may not be in the required setback, which is.
Because you can have a deck in front of your house, it just can't be within that required front
so
yard.
how much are we over in this?
32% of the setback, which is 8 feet.
Yeah, it's almost entirely within the required front yard. I
Okay,
think there's a few inches that are,
It juts 8 feet into it.
Okay.
And it's 5-foot setback.
yes.
Actually, the 35 will be almost 9, but they're 8, right?
Yeah, they're
Yes.
8 feet,
So-
yeah. And just overall, you kind of alluded to it, as we mentioned, there's certain standards in the zoning ordinance a variation has to meet. If it's something that you're like, this looks really nice and we should be updating our old homes and things like that to make them look nicer and a little more new, it's definitely something we can take a direction to rewrite in our zoning ordinance.
yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at this replaces some old bushes, and this looks better than the old bushes, right? But
Exactly.
in any case, I was, yeah.
All right.
Jason, I have a question. for you
Great.
guys. How far down, if at all possible, would the side porches or side decks have to go to meet the conditions for roofing them? How far to the ground would they have to be? Like, could it be a step down?
I believe you
porch?
need a minimum of 7-foot clearance. And then if you're putting a roof on it, you're gonna have to slope it in a certain rise over run. That's 12, yeah, like,
12, so it
again, Mike
drains,
Coleman had
right,
it all. So your problem is, you might get that 7-foot, but you'll either need it low enough on the outsides or towards, it's either gotta slope this way or that way, probably towards us. You know, so it's gonna be a couple more feet, which means you're digging down, and I don't even know, if that,
So if the right-hand side was down, it would be almost ground level,
the left-hand side, you'd have to be digging in.
Yeah.
And then you'd have
And
to
then
have
you'd have
steps
to pay,
down from
and then you'd
the,
have to cover
You'd
it.
have to be steps down from the stoop.
yeah,
And you'd have to
yeah,
cover
that's
it.
crazy.
Right, so. It's not.
Okay.
Because they would really need an architect.
And don't forget, the thickness
Right
of the
here.
roof is gonna be
Yeah, I know.
2x10s, and there's another foot, so.
Well, I'm torn. I'm like right in the middle. I'm trying to figure out ways to maybe even soften it. I think that what I'm struggling with is that it's a pretty large deck, in comparison to the stoop that was there. So I guess kind of echoing a couple of the comments, I wish it did just maybe either have just one side or something, and maybe the landscaping could be, you know, the privacy to that. So, I don't know, I don't want to tell you no, and then it takes away the whole deck. You know, I wish it could just be, you know, revised a little bit, so. Or maybe adding landscaping to kind of make that privacy, so it doesn't seem like it's too far into the required.
There is no soft way to make it legal.
And you're sworn in, so you can keep
Yeah.
responding.
I don't know, I can just keep talking. if I
You can.
Sure.
I will just say that, like, we had a landscaper ready to go, to kind of not, to soften the front, like you said, and that we pumped the brakes on everything, knowing that, you know, everything was on hold. So, we agree that we don't want it to look like this big giant deck either, and some landscaping would go a long way to soften that look.
We put a stop work order on it, and they immediately followed, so that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
We told them to put the rest of the siding back on the house, though, just because we
Yeah.
knew this was October, so we knew in the winter, it wasn't gonna be solved yet,
Yeah.
so.
That
I
makes
think,
sense.
I think the best thing to do would resolve this whole situation with your contractor and make him bring it to code. That's what he signed on to do, that's what he needs to do. So I think before we make any decisions, that should be done.
That'd be a negotiating point. He's on the bubble for this. I mean, you guys have a contract, you have a written contract, you guys signed in good faith. You might want to go back to this guy and say, fix this, or you know the rest. Because as it is, I mean, we've all been discussing this, you can't see a way to make it go.
And I
Maybe
think,
he's got some kind of secret plan that none of us know about.
I think those photos that you showed as well kind of show, like, maybe some of the other ones in the area are a bit smaller, so that's kind of where I'm struck too.
But they may be within that setback that,
Right, but they only had like one side as
Yeah.
well, so,
Yeah, that's true too.
all right, I think we're ready to hear the standards. Or, yeah,
Okay.
can you approach the podium?
Please sign in too.
Sure.
And then just repeat your name for the video.
Okay.
Can you repeat your name for the video?
My name is Terrence Buckley. I live at 7536 163rd Place, right next door to them.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand and I'll swear you in? Do you swear or affirm that the evidence that you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You can proceed.
My name is Terrence Buckley. My wife Donna would be here, but unfortunately she's really ailing. She can't even walk anymore. You know, and it's too much of a problem for her to come. We've been a resident of this address for 33 years. We moved in 1992. They're the third owners of the house. Previous owners, they did some things to the house, but nothing like they did. when they were building this, I said, man, this is really going to increase the value of my house. And it has, because these houses are 55 years old almost right now. And all these houses, yes, they've done the siding, they've done the roofs, they've done the windows, but nothing to increase the value of the house by doing something extraordinary. And I was really surprised when they told me they had stopped because the village put a stop order in it. I could see the permit area, but considering this a deck, I would have never considered that a deck. I've looked down the streets what a deck is. A deck is just a little place outside the backyard. I've never seen a portico on a deck. Have you? Any of you seen a portico on a deck? I never have. And that last picture you have of their construction should have the finished product, not some board laying on the ground. It's the portico. I looked up the definition of a porch. Porch goes back to like the 1200th century. And as you say, a porch is a place of meeting, where people meet. And that was their purpose, for the neighbors to meet and talk to them. And a porch has a portico. That's the difference between a deck and a porch. If you look up the definition of porch, a portico, it started by the churches back in the 1200s for the people to meet before they went into the church. It doesn't say anything about roof lines or anything. It says portico.
But it does say that the porch should be covered by a roof.
No, it
This-
doesn't, in that, when the porches, the definition of a porch in the dictionary does not say it has a portico. It doesn't say it has a roof.
Well, that's what the portico is, sir. It's a
And
roof
if it has a
structure.
portico, it's a porch. Because you don't have porticos in the backyard.
Wait, you're right, but there's a portico over the porch. The rest of it is a deck because there is no roof or
But
portico.
if you go to a church, they have a raised, and it's just like that. If you go to different churches, they have a thing, and the portico is right over the entrance. And that is the entrance to their house. And the other thing is, this,
The deck is what we're talking about. We're not talking about the portico.
I know
We're talking
you
about
are,
the two
but
sides
the
of it.
portico is part of a porch. It doesn't have to be a roof line, like you're saying in your things. And I've been in the house, and this is adding value to my house. They take this down, value of my house will go down. They're thinking out of the box, of modernizing the houses like this in Bremertown. No one else has done it. And to me, it was great, because I said to myself, man, my house is going up in value now, because they're doing something extraordinary and makes my house look nicer. I've done a lot too. And that picture does not illustrate the finished product, and that you should see too. Do you have a picture of the finished product? And the thing you sent to us has somebody, an intern or whatever, did a computer program of putting colors in on the house and everything. That, you should have done the finished product and put this in the letter you sent me and to the other neighbors. And I've talked to the other neighbors, and they have no problem with this. If our neighborhood doesn't have a problem with it, why does the village have a problem with it?
Because we have rules. We have rules. There's certain zoning,
But why do other people can do it and you let them go by? There's a house on 76th Avenue that has no overhang on it and doesn't even have a portico.
Sir, we're not gonna speak about the other
And
properties
there's
right
another
now.
house on 163rd Street that has the same issue.
without seeing those houses or knowing anything about them, I'm gonna guess that certain deck or porch in the front is within the allowed area. It's not, this is in the.
This is no deck. This is no deck.
This is a deck.
Per the zoning ordinance for Tinley Park, it is considered a deck.
Well,
so-
you should read,
We have
think
zoning.
on
You
your
should read
zoning
it.
it,
You should
of
read
what
our
people are.
rules.
Huh?
You should read our zoning.
I
zoning
did.
things
I
about
did.
this.
I
But
did.
Then you're missing something.
That is not a deck. That is a porch. And I thought it was when I looked at it.
I think we hear
And you
your
know,
suggestions.
33 years, this town, I don't know about it. But this is increasing my value, and now you're gonna make them take it down. You're gonna decrease my value of the house, our house, and the
It's gonna
houses
put your
around.
value right to where it was. It's
No.
not gonna decrease anything. It's gonna put it right where it was to begin with.
No, sir, that is incorrect statement.
Do you have any other concerns for us?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Your suggestions will be captured in the minutes. Sir, do you have anything to add before we move on? And if you can sign in and state your name. All right, if you can state your name, sorry.
Jason Derda,
All right, if you can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence that you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you for your time this evening about discussing our project at our house. It's always been a dream of ours to have a big open porch where we can gather, communicate, be friendly with the neighbors. I am a United States Navy veteran. I have served this country, and all I want is a dream home. And this is my dream home. I don't want to lose it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
You're welcome.
Staff, can I ask a quick question?
Mhm.
Do you guys have any, if we were to move forward with the variation, do you have any, suggested conditions to maybe bring that into compliance eventually?
So
Just looking for some help.
We can't really put a time frame on a variation. A variation's tied with the land, in perpetuity, basically, until the structure is gone or something happens to the ground itself. It's a tough situation. The property owners are not at fault here, and have an issue with their contractor. Where our problem comes in is we have and we'll get to them later, but we have standards that are supposed to be met for a variation. So certain hardships, and not just someone lied to us or did something incorrectly. It's more so, is this unique? Is this something that only would apply to this property? And things like that. The big thing is variations have come before for this kind of improvement and have been denied. So if you approve this one, it might send a signal that, we're picking favorites, which is not true, but it's just something that, could happen. The other situation is, like I already said, if it's something we want to see move forward and we want to allow these types of structures on the front, the proper way to do so would be an amendment to our zoning code. I'll just put it on the public record here that it's something as staff we're looking to do next year. As the comp plan wraps up, we take the suggestions from the comp plan and we're going to tailor make a zoning ordinance. We've band-aided it for 30, 40 years. We're going to pitch it and start anew with our new comp plan, a zoning ordinance that makes sense, get input from the public, especially from people that want to do stuff like this. You can hear the pros and cons of it, and we can make those kinds of decisions. At this point right now, with the variation, we didn't write it in the affirmative because we don't see a true hardship here. If this was not built yet and someone came in asking for a variation, that's kind of how you have to treat it. And that's just from our professional opinion.
And per your guys' opinion, there's no land-related hardship for this? It's pretty much a
They
standard
have
lot?
access to the house. They actually had a legal conforming house. There's nothing that says you have to have a front porch or deck. There's no topography uniqueness to it. There's no shape of the lot that makes it hard. A lot of times it's more so if it's a pie-shaped lot, or if there's a huge topography change to where the way we measure things, it's more to have to do with the code itself is limiting the factor on how the property can get utilized. The property is needed to be utilized for a single-family detached home. It's serving that purpose. So again, you're the voters, you know, you're gonna vote on this, on how you see fit. We just have to give you the facts and how it should be interpreted, and again, village board will make their decision as well. So,
And we'll read our discussion as well.
Correct.
To inform it. So, but we also have the right to amend our response, or whatever we decide to vote in favor of as well,
So we wrote standards in the negative.
right?
If you all feel like you want to change those standards, just state, and the petitioners did an excellent job going through their process, their answers to the standards and how they see it does apply. So if you kind of agree with them, you can amend them and then vote on it. You can keep the standards as they are and still vote on it that way too. So we always write the motions in the affirmative. If you want them to have the variation, when the motion comes along, you can vote yes. If you don't want them to get the variation, you can rate no.
Jason,
Mhm.
the portico and the steps in there,
Mhm.
are they in need of any kind of a variation?
No.
They totally meet the criteria?
We
Right.
looked at their
So if the
building
wings-
plans and the
if wings
location of
were
them,
gone-
and they are currently in if there were no deck on the sides, it would just be considered steps and
Landing.
something, there's,
Canopy, I guess.
yes, a canopy,
Yeah.
which is also permitted.
Okay.
It meets height standards, it meets setback standards, because those are permitted obstructions in the required front yard.
Now, what about the posts holding up the roof on the portico?
Yes, that's all within reason.
For the zoning ordinance.
For the
There-
zoning
There may be
ordinance.
building.
So they don't have to be 6 by 6?
concerns. There may be building code concerns that the building official has spoken with the petitioners about. That is kind of on hold while we do the variation process. So if the sides were to be removed, there still may need to be some enhancement to the covered portion as well. I can't speak to that. I don't know the details, but that's been discussed with the building official.
Once we make a decision on, or once this gets decided, then they can make a decision on how to move forward, tear it down, modify it, do something. The building team will work with them. to
Didn't
make-
somebody say that 6 by 6s were required on these posts?
Yeah, the building, yes, the decks
Well,
have.
that's all I need.
4x4 posts, they need 6x6s. There are other ways than ripping them out, and there's other ways you can sister them. You can
Okay,
do some other
okay,
things
okay, that's good,
To fix that, yes.
that's good.
Okay, I think we can move on to the standards.
You actually have to close the public hearing first.
Sorry about that.
Can I provide
Oh.
this letter from our other neighbor?
Yeah,
Or do you
would
have
you
it
like it
here?
entered into the record?
Yeah. we
Yeah,
can.
so you can just, I'll just give it to the chair, and we'll, be in all the documents that go to village board.
All right, I'm going to read this out loud into the record. This letter's dated January 6th, 2025, to the Community Development Department of Tinley Park. My husband and I own the house at 7543 on 163rd Place and have been residents of the Brementown Estates community since 1993. We live directly across the street from the Deidre family. Last year, we watched the siding replacement and the porch construction to their home, and we were elated to see such an aesthetically pleasing improvement to our street. The Deidre family are wonderful neighbors and should be encouraged to improve their house, which in turn will improve our entire neighborhood. We have no hesitation with their plans moving forward. Please approve their variance application so they can commence their work ASAP. Sincerely, Greg and Joy Wilder, 7543 163rd Place, Tinley Park, Illinois. Is this the only one, or?
Yeah, that's just the email details.
Okay.
It looked official.
Do any of you guys want to see this letter?
No, I'm good.
All right. Anything else you guys would like to add before we close? Okay. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
So,
I heard Commissioner Sepisi make a motion.
I'll second it.
I heard Commissioner Manny make a second. I will ask for a voice vote. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I didn't hear any, so the public hearing is now closed, and anyone wishing to speak will have to wait until public comment. Staff, will you please present the standards?
So, as we mentioned, these are written in the negative. You can amend anything that is written in response if you so choose, but I'm just going to read them off verbatim for now. So the first one is that the property cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by the regulations in the district in which it is located. While the house does require some means of egress to the front door, this can be accomplished with a stoop as it was previously, or a covered porch. The plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances. While the architecture of the house will not support a roof to cover the entire deck structure without modifications, the specific house type can be found throughout Tinley Park. Variation, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. If allowed, this will be the only house on the block to have a deck in the front yard, which may result in an increase in variation requests to construct similar structures. And then we don't write responses to this next one. Are we okay with the proposed standards?
Yes.
Okay, then I have the motion on screen. And as a reminder, this is written in the affirmative. If you make the motion, you're not saying that you support it yet. There'll then be a vote, and you'll vote to approve, to recommend approval or recommend denial.
All right, we have one motion before us tonight. May I have a motion regarding the requested variation?
I make a motion to grant the petitioners a variation from section 3H.1 of the zoning ordinance to permit a deck within the required front yard and encroach no more than a maximum of 8 feet into the required front yard in accordance with the plan submitted and adopt the findings of fact proposed in the January 16, 2025 staff report.
Thank
I'll
you,
second.
Commissioner. All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Manny and a second by Commissioner Merrick. And Jason, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Gaskell,
No.
Commissioner Manny,
Yes.
Commissioner Merrick,
No.
Commissioner Sepisi,
No.
and Acting Chair Martinez.
No.
Motion does not pass.
So you just voted to not recommend approval to the village board. It will still go before the village board on February 4th. They will review the minutes and the materials submitted and make the final determination as to whether or not to grant the variation.
Can we make a comment and say that we hope that they overturn? So, I mean, for real, like,
Yeah.
we're recommending only, but we need to follow the rules. But this does strike me as not an equitable outcome.
But then, also comment from me, I've been saying that we need to revisit our zoning codes because they are detrimental for the happiness of all the residents. You know, we're not able to improve on them because, why? Like in my block alone, there's like 6 houses that have this type of structure. Mine doesn't, but, like the older gentleman indicated, it just makes your house nice, raises the value, and that's what people want to see.
Just to kind of explain my no as well, or just give commentary for moving forward. I'm kind of agreeing with my commissioner who did say yes, just because I think that we should revisit our code and make it a little bit more accommodating to these types of structures. I don't think it should probably be you know, as big as the one that was proposed tonight, so maybe there's a happy medium for the future.
You know, that kind of confuses me. I mean, if you agree that this should be able, that this should go, why did you vote no?
I voted no because of the zoning ordinance, what the current rule is. But I
Well-
think that moving forward, we should revisit that.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
And then I believe you should just stay in staff until that village board meeting for that, so.
Well, no, but excuse me again. The vote was to recommend changing that ordinance so they could do this. That was what the vote was for. So if you want them to change the ordinance to do this, why did you vote no? That's my
not-
question.
No, that's not what we do. We don't change ordinances.
No, but you want the village to do it. So why did you
Because
vote
the
no?
village has the power to
I know
actually,
that,
by
sir.
voting in favor of something, they actually change it in a unique circumstance. We're a recommending body that's supposed to be applying the rules as written. So,
But they're asking for a variance. We're not changing the rule. We're just saying, that, oh, okay, we recommend the variance.
I said I don't agree that it should be as large as the one proposed tonight, so I'm not okay with the one proposed tonight. But in the future, if there's a smaller structure that can be,
Well, that still confuses me.
yeah. And one last comment too about that. The other houses we saw had like an extended porch on one side, but not both. I was also asking, and I can't tell from this, about how much the encroachment is in the front yard towards the street, and how that, like, the image we have doesn't do due diligence to lay that out and its impact. So hence my vote, right? But I am concerned about the process you folks went through to end up here, but also potentially about it being a yes or no, like all or nothing. And I think, as our acting chair suggested tonight, there's probably a happy medium that might work, so.
right? Thank you, so that's all for this case tonight. So we'll see you on February 4th. And then we'll move on for comments of the public. It doesn't appear that there's anyone who would wish to give public comment, so we'll move on to the good of the order. Staff, do you have anything for the good of the order?
Nothing in particular, but, because our last meeting was December 5th, the Sports Dome project, the Larry Deb project, gas and wash, all that went forward. I believe, they're all going to the next meeting. They're, for Larry Deb's project, they're still working on an annexation agreement, which just goes to village board, not here, just to tie up some loose ends with like utilities and things going on site. But I believe Sports Dome was passed by village board. The gas and wash, they're waiting until Larry Deb's thing gets through. And the other ones went through as well, action behavior centers. We had like 6 items, so, but all of them except the Larry Deb project on 191st went through, but that one is looking to go through in February.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, I heard a motion by Commissioner Gaskell and a second by Commissioner Manny. All those in favor of adjourning the January 16th, 2025 Plan Commission meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion is carried and the meeting is adjourned at 7:53.